Once you've got used to each side, one thing to remember is to keep your feet active, and by that I mean pointing the toe to the shin, so not having a lazy foot. Once mastered, halfway through the drill, you can actually change from having one leg straight and one leg high knee to swapping over to the other one. Again, this will improve not only proprioception, but coordination and agility. We're now going to demonstrate some circuit training exercises. Circuit training can be done in a large hall, sports hall, or just a large space. Circuit training involves a variety of different exercise stations, and you can either do these in time, so for example you could do 20 seconds of each exercise and 20 seconds to recover, or you could do a certain number of exercises, for example 30 press-ups, and then move on to the next station. Before doing circuit training, you should always remember to do a thorough warm-up. The first exercise is the press-up. When doing a press-up, you should have your arms shoulder width or just slightly further apart, a straight back, and then slowly control the exercise, lower down and up. A variation of the press-up is the incline press-up. This can be used by putting your feet on a bench or a low step. The same applies, straight back and arms just shoulder width apart. A simpler version of the press-up is the press-up from the knees. Again, you should be in the normal press-up position, but this time have your knees down on the mat. And this is a simpler version for people that can't manage the full press-up. The next exercise is using dumbbells. We've got three varieties of the dumbbell exercise. The first one is the horizontal arm extensions. As you can see, arms should be brought up to the horizontal line and back down. These should be done slow and controlled. The next exercise is the dumbbell above the head. Again, slow and controlled, and up above the head to extension. The final dumbbell exercise is a dumbbell with the running arms. This one foot should be placed in front of the other foot for balance, and then running technique with the arms, making sure you're bent at the elbows and moving your arms backwards and forwards. The next exercise is the tricep dip. This exercise works the triceps at the back of the arm. The first version here, straight legs out in front and slowly lower down until your bum is just above the ground. A simpler variation of this is with the feet brought in and the knees bent. The next exercise is the crunch. For this exercise, the subject should have their knees bent and feet flat on the floor. Fingers placed gently at the side of the head and then slowly sit up. This is not a full sit-up, so the person is only coming halfway up and crunching in their lower abs. An extension of this exercise is the oblique crunch. For this one, the knees should then be brought up to 90 degrees at the hips and the feet straight out in front. Fingers again should be placed gently at the side of the head, and right elbow should be coming towards the left knee and the left elbow towards the right knee. As you do this exercise, it's important to keep the rest of you still, so you're just concentrating on the abs. The next exercise is the squat thrust. For this, the subject should be in the press-up position. The first one is the double leg squat thrust, where both feet come up together. An extension of this exercise is the split leg squat thrust. And this is where you move each leg alternately. This exercise is the bench astride exercise. For this, the person should have their feet astride the bench, come up onto the bench, and then back down into the astride position simultaneously. This exercise is the one-legged squat. One foot should be placed behind you on the bench, and then between your feet there should be one shin length of distance. The weight should be placed, for this example, on the left foot, and then the subject should slowly squat down. As you can see, the upper body is straight, and the weight is on this leg, with the knee staying over the ankle. This exercise is the half squat. The subject should stand with feet shoulder width apart, fingers placed gently on the temples, and then squatting to 90 degrees. It's important to emphasize a straight back and pushing your bum out behind you, so your knees should not be coming over in front of your toes. An extension of this that may make it easier is to place the hands out in front and then sit back that way. The arms in front will help with balance and also allow you to stick your bum out further and stop the knees coming over the toes. This exercise is the calf raise. For this, a person can stand up on a bench, put their forefoot on the edge of the bench, and then slowly raise up onto their toes and back down to the horizontal position. This exercise can also be done with a single leg, and again, forefoot on the bench, raising up on the toes and back into the horizontal position. The next exercise is the toe tap. For this exercise, one foot should be placed on the edge of the bench and one on the floor. Then the person should simultaneously exchange legs with the forefoot tapping on the bench. This exercise is the star jump. For this, you need to be stood with your feet together and your arms by your side. Then jump out, moving your feet out to the side and your arms out in the shape of a star. This next exercise is the lunge. For this, a person should be taking a stride out in front of them and then lowering themselves down into a squat position. When you do this, the knee should stay over the ankle at all times and the back should be straight. Do alternate legs and return back to the start position. We're now going to demonstrate a shuttle run. The shuttle run can be used as a station within a circuit training session or can be used in between each station to make the exercise more aerobic. A shuttle run can be done between two cones in an area in a gym or just between a space. We're now going to move on to some core stability exercises. Core stability is essential for stability within the central region, which can improve your posture and also limit the amount of injuries you can get. Core stability exercises work on the abdomen region and the muscles that attach to the pelvis, the spine and the shoulders. These are all essential for movement, and the stronger core we have, the better athletes we can become. This first exercise is the plank exercise. The person should lay down on the floor and assume the position where they're on their forearms with their shoulders above their elbows. They should raise up so they're on their toes and there's a straight line formed between the shoulders and the ankles. When holding this position, it's important to concentrate on your lower back and stomach to hold that straight position. This can be held for 20, 30 seconds up to a minute, depending on the ability of the person doing it. It's important that when you start to drop, you should stop the exercise. The next exercise is the side plank. For this, the person should lay on their side with their feet together and again on their forearm. The shoulders should remain above the elbow, and as they're in this straight line, they should be using the oblique muscles underneath the ribs to hold the position. To make this easier, you can lift your top arm to aid your balance. This exercise again can be held for 20 to 30 seconds, and once you become competent at it, you can hold it for up to a minute. This can be done on both sides. This next exercise is the bridging exercise. The person should lay on their back with their knees bent at 90 degrees and feet flat on the floor. They should then raise themselves into the bridge position, keeping their back as straight as possible, and then lift one leg off the ground. They will now be using their bottom, lower abs and back to hold that position and keep the back as straight as possible. This can then be switched to the other side by placing the leg down and switching to the other leg. Again, working on your bum, your lower abs and your back to stabilise the position and keep your hips up. An extension of the bridging exercise is the dynamic bridging exercise. Again, the person should get into the bridging position with both feet flat on the floor and the knees bent at 90 degrees. Once they're in the bridge position, they lift one leg off the ground and then slowly lower down till their bum is just above the ground and then raise back up, slowly and controlled. You should minimise the amount of movement in the hips at all times, and again concentrate on using your bum, your lower ab muscles and your back to control the movement. Again, this can be done on both sides. Slow and controlled. The next exercise is the Superman exercise. For this exercise, the person needs to get onto all fours, so on their hands and knees, with their back straight and their hips parallel to the floor. They can then lift their right arm and left leg, or left arm and right leg, simultaneously to form the Superman position. For this exercise, it's important to keep the back as straight as possible and limit the amount of movement in the hips. The position should be held for 10 seconds and then switch to the other side. That's it. This next exercise is the alternate leg extension exercise. The person should be lay on the floor with their knees bent and their feet flat to the ground. They should then use their lower abdominal muscles to make sure their back is flat to the mat. It's important here not to use your six-pack muscles, the larger muscle group. It's important to use the lower ones, and it should be a small contraction, not a tense contraction. You should then lift the knees up above the hips and then alternately extend each leg. The extension should just take a few seconds to slowly point out and then bring back in. The emphasis again is on preventing the lower back from lifting off the mat. The next exercise is called 100s. The person should be lay on their back with their knees bent at 90 degrees and feet flat on the floor. They then lift their legs so their knees are up above their hips, and with outstretched arms, slowly tap the ground simultaneously 100 times. The aim of this exercise is to keep the lower abdominals contracted but limit the amount of movement in the legs. We are now going to do some core stability exercises using a medicine ball. A medicine ball is a weighted ball about the size of a football. It's important when doing these exercises that you do not use too heavy a medicine ball. So for people that are beginners at these exercises, it may be useful to use either a football or a basketball. These dynamic exercises will allow the core stability muscles to contract while doing movements. So this is essential when running and out orienteering. The first exercise is a simple throw and catch exercise. You'll be throwing the ball to a partner who will be seated on the floor with their legs lifted off the floor and their knees bent at 90 degrees. You can throw the ball slightly off centre to make the partner work a little bit harder to catch and throw the ball back. This next exercise is another throw and catch exercise, except this time the person that you're throwing the ball to will be sat side on to you. This is because they're going to work more on the oblique muscles at the side of the body, and they will actually catch the ball and throw it back to you from a side angle. To start with, we're going to have the subject with the feet on the ground. A progression from here will be to lift the feet off the ground and make it more difficult. This exercise should obviously be done with both sides. This next exercise will involve throwing and catching again, but will emphasise the lower abdomen as well as the obliques. So I'll be throwing the ball to the person on the floor, they'll be catching it, twisting from side to side with the ball before throwing it back. This can be done a number of times. For this instance, we're going to do it 5 times. Every session should be finished with a gentle warm down, which can include some gentle jogging and also some stretching. Stretching is really important. It helps to reduce stiffness the next day, and also it will help improve flexibility, which is essential for injury prevention. Okay, we're going to start the stretching routine now. We're going to work from the feet upwards. So the first stretch we're going to do is the calf stretch, the gastrocnemius. We're going to use this if you guys come across the wall. This stretch, you're going to gently push against the wall, one leg extended out behind you. Okay, push the heel into the mat and then just gently lean into that, so you should feel a stretch at the top of your calf. Each stretch should be held for a minimum of 20 seconds. An extension of this stretch is to stretch the lower part of the calf, the soleus muscle. If you bring your leg in slightly, bend the knee and just bend and slowly lower into the stretch. You should feel that at the bottom part of the calf into the Achilles. Okay, if we stand up, use the wall for balance. Grab onto your foot and you should stretch the quadricep. This is the front part of the thigh. As you do this, stay tall, keep your hips pushed forward, back straight, and you should feel a stretch in the front of the quad. Again, minimum of 20 seconds per stretch. An extension of this stretch, you can move now down onto the mat. If you lie on your side, have the bottom leg bent upwards, and then you can hold on to the underneath of the knee or onto the foot and stretch the other leg backwards here. This will also stretch your quadricep. Okay, from here, we'll move on to a groin stretch. For this, you can put your feet together and push on your knees with your elbows. From stretching the groin, we'll move on to stretching the glutes. Here you can put one leg out in front of you straight, put your right leg over your left leg, and then hug this knee into the opposite shoulder, so the right knee into the left shoulder. Use both hands to squeeze round. As you do this stretch, keep tall, and you should feel a stretch in the lower part of the glute. An extension of this stretch as well, if you can't feel it there, you can actually bring that bottom leg in. Again, wrap the top leg over and squeeze in. Okay, we're now going to stretch the hamstrings. So if you bring one of your legs in and put your foot parallel with your other leg, and then slowly lean in towards your toe. If you can touch your toe, great, but you don't have to touch your toe on this stretch. You can just move slowly down your shin. Keep looking up because it's important to keep your back as straight as possible. Okay, now a stretch for the hip flexors. Ideally, you do this on a soft surface. Have one leg bent